I want you to think about every decision you've ever made, every turn you took, every person you chose, every moment where your life could have gone a completely different direction. Now, what if I told you that in every single one of those moments, every version of what could have happened actually did happen, just not here, not in this universe, somewhere else, in a reality running parallel to this one right now. This isn't science fiction, this is where modern physics actually points. And the deeper scientists look, the harder it becomes to dismiss. First, let's get something clear. When most people hear multiverse, they think comic books, parallel dimensions, portals, science fiction designed to sell movie tickets. The scientific version is both more serious and more disturbing than any of that. There are actually multiple distinct theories in physics that independently lead to the same conclusion, that our universe is not the only one. They arrive there from completely different directions, different equations, different observations, different branches of physics entirely, and they all end up in the same place. More than one universe. The first and most straightforward version comes directly from the theory we already know is true, the one that explains the birth of our own universe. Inflation. In the first fraction of a second after the Big Bang, the universe expanded faster than the speed of light. We have direct observational evidence for this. It's not controversial. What is still debated is whether that inflation ever truly stopped, or whether it's still happening right now, somewhere beyond what we can observe. If inflation never stopped everywhere, if it only stopped in certain regions, creating stable pockets of space, then every one of those pockets would be its own universe, its own Big Bang, its own laws of physics, its own galaxies, stars, planets, and possibly its own life. Our universe would be one bubble, one isolated pocket in an eternally inflating sea of space-time that never ends and never stops producing new realities. And in that model, the number of universes isn't large, it's infinite. But that's just one version of the multiverse. And honestly, it's not the one that should keep you up at night. The one that should keep you up at night comes from quantum mechanics. Here's what quantum mechanics tells us about reality at the smallest scale. A particle, an electron, a photon, any quantum object, doesn't have a definite state until it is observed. Before observation, it exists in what's called a superposition, a combination of all possible states simultaneously. It isn't here or there, it's here and there, both at once, every possibility existing at the same time. The moment you observe it, the moment any interaction occurs, it collapses into one definite state, one outcome, one reality. But here's the question that launched one of the most debated interpretations in all of physics. What happens to the other possibilities? In 1957, a physicist named Hugh Everett proposed something radical. Nothing happens to them. They don't disappear. They don't cease to exist. They all happen, each one branching into its own separate reality, its own universe. The universe doesn't choose one outcome. It experiences all of them simultaneously, splitting into parallel versions with every quantum event. This is called the many worlds interpretation. And here's what makes it personal. Quantum events don't just happen in laboratories. They happen inside your body, inside your brain. Every decision you make at the most fundamental physical level involves quantum processes. Every neuron that fires, every chemical reaction in your nervous system, every thought, which means, if Everett was right, every decision you have ever made spawned a new universe. One where you made the other choice. One where you took the other path. One where everything is different. There is a version of you right now who made every decision you didn't. And that version is just as real as you are. Now I want to take you one step further, because there's a third version of the multiverse that most people have never heard of, and it's the most radical of all. It was proposed by MIT physicist Max Tegmark, and he calls it the mathematical universe hypothesis. The idea starts with a question that sounds philosophical, but is actually deeply scientific. Why does mathematics describe physical reality so perfectly? Every law of physics is a mathematical equation. Every force, every particle, every relationship between objects in the universe, all of it described with extraordinary precision by math. Einstein's equations, quantum field theory, the Standard Model, all mathematics. Why? Why should abstract numbers and equations correspond so perfectly to the physical world? Tegmark's answer is the most extreme possible, because the universe isn't just described by mathematics, it is mathematics. Physical reality is a mathematical structure, and if that's true, then every mathematical structure that can exist does exist as its own universe, with its own physical reality. In that model, the multiverse isn't just large, it contains every possible reality that is mathematically consistent, every possible set of physical laws, every possible configuration of matter and energy, every possible version of history. And somewhere in that infinite mathematical landscape, every version of you that could logically exist does. Here's the hardest part of this conversation. We may never be able to prove any of this. By definition, other universes in the inflationary multiverse are beyond our observable horizon, separated from us by distances light can never cross. The branching universes of many worlds happen at the quantum level and leave no macroscopic trace we can detect. The mathematical universes of Tegmark's hypothesis exist in a framework entirely outside our own physical reality. They are real, if they exist, in ways that produce no signal we can ever receive. Some physicists argue this makes the multiverse unscientific, that a theory which cannot be tested is not physics, it's philosophy. And that's a fair criticism that serious scientists genuinely debate. But others point out that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, that the mathematics which predicts the multiverse is the same mathematics that predicted black holes decades before we confirmed them, that predicted gravitational waves a century before we detected them, that predicted the Higgs boson 40 years before the Large Hadron Collider found it. The math has been right before, when observation couldn't catch up. Maybe it's right again. Let me bring this back to you. Right now, in this moment, you are one version of yourself. One outcome of billions of decisions, coincidences, and quantum events that could have gone differently at every step. The person you are today exists because of a specific, unrepeatable chain of events. A conversation that happened, a choice that was made, a moment that went one way instead of another. In another universe, that chain went differently, and the person reading this never existed. Someone else did, living a life you will never know, making choices you never made, becoming something you never became. And in another universe still, you made every right choice. Every door opened, everything worked out. All of it equally real. All of it happening right now. You are not a person, you are a probability. And somewhere in the multiverse, every version of that probability is alive. The multiverse isn't a theory about space. It's a theory about you, about what you are, about how many versions of this moment exist, about whether the choices you didn't make are still being made, somewhere by someone wearing your face. Science doesn't have the final answer yet, but the fact that it's asking the question at all should make you look at your life completely differently. If every version of you exists somewhere, which one are you choosing to be in this universe? Follow Hidden Cosmos, because the next video goes even deeper.